This week on SV Lynx. Welcome to this week's SV Lynx video. Well, this week we didn't have COVID to contend with anymore, as both Brian and Phil are well, and I managed not to get COVID. But this week we did have to contend with high temperatures, up to 100 almost every day. So we managed to work through it by starting early and working in the cooler morning hours.
Yep, and then Brian and I would knock off for the afternoon when it was into those really high temperatures and just too hot. But we got back to work on the mast support system that goes across, and we were doing great on that until we ran into an issue, which we'll get into in a minute. So we had to change gears and work on something else because we don't want to lose time. So we started working on the major bulkhead at the back of the boat. It was already glued in but wasn't tabbed, and we also had some stuff on the starboard side, forward bulkheads to get fixed up. And once we got that finished, we also wanted to get the forebeam off of its stand and down onto bulkhead number 1 on both sides. And so that is a bunch of work, and we wanted to get started on that. So let's show you how we did on all of that at the lot. It's Monday of a new week, and we've got the first layer all hardened up. So I'm going to put on the top layer of basalt right now. So I'm going to get this all wet out. Start with the corners. I learned my lesson on that one, on the first one. Better to start with the small pieces. Needed a little bit more epoxy right here, so I mixed enough for the next one too. It's very cool right now. I'm early in the morning, and this epoxy isn't going to set up all that fast. So I can get these both done at the same time. Good. I'm just going to get some weight on it. Take this first set of gloves off because they're all messy. And we'll get some weight on here. I think that's good. Everything's flat down on the surface. That is set up. Well, these 4 bulkheads, 1, 2, 3, and one down there, 4, are all glued in, but these are the 4 we haven't put our coves and tabs in yet. So I just finished sanding these 2 right here, both sides, getting ready for putting in our coves and tabs. And this is something I can do by myself, so while those crossing beams are setting up today, I'm going to go ahead and get these first 2 tabbed, and then tomorrow, after I do some more work on the crossing beams, I will tab these last 2 in, and then the full all the bulkheads on both sides will be completed as far as mounting them into the hulls. So we had this last little bit to go. Be good to get that finished because we're going to start wanting to work on all the sole stuff in here. And up here in this area, including over here, this is all watertight compartments down in here for positive flotation on the boat. And the only part that's usable space to us is going to be above here. There'll be a piece that goes on top, and then this will be a sail locker storage area You come down from a hatch. We'll come down from a hatch up here, down into this area, and you'll be able to access the storage through this whole opening right here for sail storage. And this is more storage areas in here as well. So we'll be probably putting some kind of a steps right here so that you come down from the hatch right here, you come down the steps and be able to get into here to store stuff. And on this side of the boat, it's possible, we haven't quite decided yet. One side or the other is going to be a little work area that we're going to create. One's for sail storage and the other one's a work area. I haven't quite figured out which side I want those on. It all depends on the weight. We have to check which side has the most weight and which is the most advantageous to put that stuff on that side. I'm thinking that the heavy side will probably be where all the spare parts are, and the sails on the other side will be a little bit lighter, but we'll have to check that. Let's assume that this is the work area. So what will happen here is there'll be a small bench put across here, and we'll be able to sit here at this bench and do work on smelly things, for example, or greasy things, or anything we really don't like to put on our eating surface in the cockpit or salon tables. So if we're doing something of a nasty sort, like let's say we're cleaning or repairing one of the pumps for the toilet, I'd rather come inside of here, which is going to be completely sealed from the rest of the boat. We come down through the hatch here, and any nasty smells that are going on while we work on it will be contained here and not through the rest of the boat. Also, if we get interrupted and we need to go do something else, we can leave it sitting here and get out and it's not on our table. So that's what this area is going to be. And if this is the workbench area right here where the workbench is there and the seat here, then behind me when I'm working there, this is where we're going to create storage for spare parts in the boat. So there'll be bins in here with various spare parts in them. And there'll probably be some storage in here as well, like a cupboard up higher to the side here. So we make as much use of this whole space as we can for our spare parts and our workbench area. And like I say, then on the other side, which is identical to this, will be the sail storage area, and possibly like extra lines and different things like that will be stored on that side of the boat.
One last thing about that. This height right here is about where the flat portion of the sole will be in there. And so if I'm standing in here, you can see that I still have headroom over with the deck above me. That'll allow us to stand if we're working on something here at the bench. And there'll also be a stool so you can sit down if you want. But I also want a standing height in here just so that it's comfortable to do work on the docks.
All right, well that concludes the work on bulkheads today. Got bulkhead 0 and bulkhead 1 all tabbed and coved. That only leaves bulkhead 2 here and bulkhead 3 that need to be done, which is good because we've got a lot bigger things that we want to move on to, like getting the soles in and working on the fuel and the water tanks, fresh, gray, all those good tanks. We got to get all that done, get those into the hulls, and of course the fuel tanks aren't in the hulls. They're right up here, one there, and one over in that compartment there, in the bottom of these compartments. Water tanks are all down here, so we'll be getting to the gray water tanks and plumbing and such in here. So our freshwater tanks are going to be here and here. So still got to get these bulkheads in, and then we can start working on the water tanks. And to get all the various tanks done, we need inspection ports and the valves that go on top, or all that good stuff. So I don't have those coming yet. We still got some weeks to go here before we get to this, because we're going to have to finish the bridge deck first. But I think I'll get those in the works, so by the time we get to working on the water tanks and the gray water tanks up there and the fuel tanks, we will have all of the inspection ports and all of the valves and such that bring the liquids in and out of the tanks. So A lot of ordering to go. I did some of that this morning as well.
So Brian's back from his fun with sickness, and we're as healthy as we normally are. And guess what? Brian's mixing epoxy, so I have to drink. We're gonna get started on the other 2 planks for the bridge deck.
Okay, it's time to trim off our fringe here. So put a little piece of tape so that we can follow. Okay, that looks good.
So that makes a nice trough now. Just what we want, 2 centimeters deep right there. It's all looking good.
Well, yesterday we finished up getting our basalt on here, and today we've already shaved it down, and so that'll give us our trough. But this is the one that's going to go in the center that we're doubling. So we're mixing up thickened epoxy, and Brian's mixing epoxy right now, so drink! But nice to have Brian back mixing epoxy, I just want to say that. So we're going to put thickened epoxy on both sides of these, put these 2 boards together, and then we're going to clamp it all. And today we're using West System epoxy to bond these. We'd like them to set up fairly rapidly because this morning we're going to continue working on the troughs for the other ones over there while this one sets up. But this afternoon we want this set up enough that we can be putting our reinforcements into the trough later this afternoon on this one. That way we can finish up all of these planks that are going to be going across the bridge deck today. And that will allow us to get working tomorrow on actually starting to bond these whole pieces into one big bridge deck. Looking for it. There we go. Okay. We are ready. Okay. Glue! We'll be back this afternoon. Well, we have a problem. We got our roll of glass out, and it's the wrong glass for what we need to do to reinforce the planks on the bridge deck. And the good news is I have the right glass coming, but it's still coming by air right now, and that doesn't help us right now when we want to get this bridge deck done. So basically, we're not sure how many days we're going to be delayed working on that bridge deck because of waiting on this, the right weave and such of the glass that we're using. But we have other things to do, lots of them. And so what we do is we're just going to put this on hold until that arrives. And we're going to get to work on some of the work in the hulls themselves. So the first thing we're going to do is bulkhead number 9 back here is we glued it in, but we never tabbed it in yet on both sides. So we're going to tab that in right now. And then there are a couple bulkheads up at the front of the boat that also, I think 2 and 3, are not yet tabbed in. So once we get these 2 done, then we'll go to the front of the boat and tab those in. Most likely we'll still be waiting on that shipment, and so we're going to work on the forebeam and get that down and attached to the hulls. Right now it's just suspended above them on a rack, but we're going to go ahead and slot it and put it down where it permanently goes and attach it to the hulls. So lots to do, just not what we thought we'd be doing for the next few days, which we thought we'd be finishing this thing, but we will get to that bridge deck as soon as those shipment arrives. So Brian's over here mixing thickened epoxy for me. Drink! And I've already prepped the surfaces on both sides over here. So we're ready to get this bulkhead tabbed in. Now I already did this side over here. this bulkhead, but this one didn't go into more recently. This is actually bulkhead number 8, as it says right there. And I said 9 a minute ago. 9 is over there. That's already been tabbed in. So it's just 8 here that we have to get in here and do that. And we have to go over that keelson on there. So. We have new things arrived in the post. I wonder what they are. We'll find out right now. The Admiral called me up and said, hey, we got stuff on the porch. Too heavy to lift. Give me a hand. Just a second. Nice cut. Okay, what do we got? Air conditioners. That's what we got. Well, that's attached. All right, let me put that on top. Yeah, I got it. Okay. There we go. Oh, there's 4 of these. 9,000 BTUs. 48 volt, that's correct. So we have a 48 volt boat, of course, so power. So we got the 48 volt AC, and we're basically putting one of these for each of the cabins. And 9,000 BTUs for those tiny cabins we have in SV Lynx is going to be plenty to cool that. But we're also going to have a venting, ducting system, I should say, that you can switch all 4 of these to send their air into the salon instead of into the cabin. So at night, if we want them in the cabins, we can switch them there. In the daytime, if we want to cool the salon, we can switch the ducts and switch them there. So these are the first 2 of the 4. The other 2 must be arriving separately. Bang in the box. It's early in the morning on Friday. We worked Thursday, even though we don't normally work Thursdays, because we're trying to catch up a little bit. And one of the things that we hadn't finished was there were the bulkheads, 8 here at the stern, and several bulkheads up in the bow on the starboard side that had been glued in but not coved and tabbed. And so yesterday we coved and tabbed about half of what was left, and this morning we're going to do the final 2, so there won't be any more tabbing and coving of any more bulkheads. They'll all be done in both hulls. You can tell I'm hot and sweaty because even though it's early in the morning, it's already really warm, and I just sanded the hull and the bulkheads so that the epoxy and glass will stick really well, because of course we don't put down glass onto peel ply surfaces directly. The peel ply surface still makes a very nice surface, but we also give it a sanding every time before we glass to it, just to make sure it's not going to delaminate. So I've been up there and sanding. That's why I'm so hot. And right now, Brian, as you can hear the vacuum running, he's up there cleaning up all the dust right now that I made. Then we're going to wipe it all out again with alcohol and glass and tab the last 2 bulkheads in the boat. So that'll be bulkheads 2 and 3 on the starboard side. So while Brian's still cleaning up over on the bulkheads 2 and 3, I thought I'd take a minute to talk about why we're doing certain things right now. We're finishing up all of the bulkhead tabbing and today, and those will be the last 2. And then if you see up there, there's the Forebeam sitting up on that temporary rack we built. And the reason we put it up there was that we can't get the Bobcat in here anymore because all these bulkheads are too low for it to drive in. So there's no way for us to use it to put that heavy forebeam up there. So we put it up ahead of time up on that rack so that it just has to be lowered down basically into position. And so today we're going to finish up the last two bulkheads over on the starboard side. And then tomorrow we're going to go ahead and get started on that forebeam. Over here, this is bulkhead number 1. And bulkhead number 1 bisects this. So we're going to have to cut a slice through the center here, and then this forebeam will insert onto bulkhead number 1. And of course we have to trim off the end over here as well, both sides. And then we can tilt this up and over, and then tilt the other side up and over and get it in place, and then we'll glass and bond it on to bulkhead number 1, and then it'll be in place and we can get rid of that temporary stand that we put in. Now we're going to get started on that tomorrow. I don't know if we'll finish it or not. If we do finish it, then the next thing to do is to continue work up on the bow. And the reason is that, remember, we're waiting on our reinforcements for the mast, and I got the wrong cloth and the wrong weight, and we have to have the right ones. So we've ordered that, but it may take up to a week to get here. So we need some work to do so we don't waste time for that while we're waiting for that to arrive. And the obvious place to do that work is the bows, because it has nothing to do with the bridge deck. And there's a lot of work up here besides the tabbing and the forebeam. We have cupboards in here, watertight compartments to put in, a work bench for the work area that we're putting in. And so we've got a ton of work to do on the bows of the boat, and we can do that until our cloth arrives. But of course, the moment that reinforcement cloth arrives, we'll get back to the bridge deck because we want to get that up and into the boat. All right, Brian's mixing epoxy drink. So we can do the last side of the last bulkhead tabbing in both holes. We just have this side. You got these ugly boards up here because we've already done these 3, and we just don't want the sun beating on it while it's setting up, so we just set these here to shade it. We have one ready to shade this side as well. And this will be it, the last one. So first we'll get that tab in right now. We've got our fiberglass pre-cut right here. Fortunately on these ones we had to use peel ply, but on this last one right now we don't need peel ply, and that's simply because this is a completely sealed up area down here. There's a shelf on top, but beneath this is part of the flotation of the boat. So we're never going to be inside of here for anything, not storage, not anything. So there's no real reason to put peel ply in here because we're never going to be in here. Goes on. Now we just got to get 2 layers of glass on here. And we'll call it a day, at least a day for doing glassing and tabbing of bulkheads. The last one on the whole boat forever. Yay. I mean, there's a lot of tabbing and glassing to go. You wouldn't believe how much tabbing we still have left to do, because I can tell by how many rolls of tabbing material we have. But that's all the furniture and seats and cupboards and all that kind of stuff. The big things left would be, well, the galley's got to go in. That's a big one. And then there's the heads. 4 of those have got to go in there. And the cabins have walls and doors and stuff. So those are the big things that are left once the bridge deck goes in. And then there's a bunch of custom work that we have to do at the stern, sugar scoop area that we're customizing a little bit, adding a new cupboard on both sides. So that'll be a little extra. And we've got to put in the all of the windows around the salon. Fortunately, those are single pieces, meaning there's a single piece that goes across the front, a single piece that goes down each side, and 2 little 45-degree ones. So there's just 5 pieces to put the window thing in. Now they'll look like this. It'll be foam with holes in it for where the windows are. And then on the outside of that, there's an acrylic piece that we seal to it. And that acrylic piece comes from Goyot already with our 4 Luxair hatches built into the acrylic. So we don't have to mount those hatches. We just have one big piece of acrylic that we have to glue onto the window foam that we put in there. Now, the same thing on the sides. There's a Luxair hatch on the side of each window piece that goes in there. Just one right at the galley for some ventilation there, and one across from it right by the main table. And those hatches aren't going to get a lot of airflow 80% of the time. But that other 20%, if we're using a stern anchor and we're holding ourselves in position, the wind could come from the side, and then we would get some nice cross ventilation through there. All right, I've talked my way into epoxy arriving. The roller should be right there. It's time to cut off this ratty end here. Now, we made this forebeam much longer than it needs to be. So we're going to now cut back to where it's fully glassed and everything here. And we need to do this on both sides. So we've done some measuring to figure out where we need to cut. And so I'm going to cut a little long this first cut just to make sure that we're all right. If it's all right, then we won't have to cut again, but it's probably on the long side, so we may have to trim it again. So this first one is sort of a rough cut. We'll get both sides done that way. Then we're going to work more on getting this centered properly and such. As you can see up here, the glassing ends right where we got our line drawn. So this is as far back, well, as far out as we can cut it, because we have to get rid of this unglassed section of this. And we're through. Hanger on there. Other side, and we'll go lop it off the same way. All right, we're on the other side, and we kept one of these around so that we could easily mark the teardrop shape. And we'll lop this one off the same way. Okay, now we're gonna have to seal the ends of this because we're getting raw wood here. Now these don't seal to the side of the boat. They just bisect this bulkhead and are sealed around the other side of the hull. This doesn't have to match up to what this is right now. So we're checking right now to make sure that we're not projecting beyond it. That was difficult, but doable. We're going to show you on the other side, but what we're doing is we're cutting this gap on the top and bottom here, which runs right along the bulkhead on the inside of the beam. And that part has to match up here because this corner of the bulkhead's actually inside the beam. And so we had to measure these out and cut top and bottom. We'll do the other side now. It's Terry. Hi, Terry. Terry's helping us today. And now we're going to do the same thing over here. Cut top and bottom of this one right along that bulkhead. Once that's true, we can now place the beam onto bulkhead number one. The trick there is going to be that these slots that we're cutting into these are not going to be the right length. We've measured them best we could, but they're still not going to be right. So what's going to happen is they're going to be a little short. We'll put them on, we'll find out how short they are, lift it up, trim it back a little bit more, set it back down until we get it to fit correctly in there. This is what the part we cut out looks like. You've got your Western red cedar that we built this out of, and then there's the carbon fiber layers on either side of it, inside and out. And then this edge here is where the cove was for the bulkhead that's inside of the beam, which we're cutting right along. And so you can see that that beam is real nice inside for the carbon fiber work there. So we're quite happy with how it came out.
You know what that means? Battery, take it off the sozzle.
Well, we got a lot done this week, although it wasn't necessarily what we meant to get done this week. We wanted to finish up the bridge deck as much as possible, but as you saw, we ran into a problem where we didn't have the right weight and weave of some glass that we need for it. that's on its way, and I've got a tracking number. It's coming by air, so it should be here fairly rapidly. I'm hoping sometime this week and we can get back going on that again. But we didn't lose any time because we got all of the remaining bulkheads tabbed and coved and tabbed in. And so those are finished. We don't do that anymore. And we got started lowering the forebeam and cutting those slots and trimming it off on the end. Not quite down yet. We'll get the rest of it early this coming week. But thank you for watching this week's video. We do appreciate you spending time with the Admiral and myself.
Yes, and a special thank you to all of our patrons you see listed here. We very much appreciate your support and viewership. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon to be notified of our next video.
So we'll see you next week where we lower this down, get rid of this structure here finally, and hopefully get that bridge deck going, because I wanted to mention one more thing. We're having a party for our 100th episode coming up, and that's only about 4 weeks away, August, I think it's 24th, it's whatever Saturday that is. And we're inviting all of our patrons and all of our crew, everybody who's done work on the boat, to come to the lot for a barbecue. And part of what we want to do is have them walk around inside the boat. For them to do that, we got to have the soul in. That means we've got to raise this bridge deck. So there's a lot to get done in these 4 weeks to get to that. But I think we can get it done, and we're going to give it the old college effort. But we're having the party regardless. So we'll see you next week for further work.
Bye.
Bye.